Welcome to On Behalf of, where I, Dara Kalima, the community poet, chat with folks who speak on behalf of their respective communities. I am so glad to be back and doing this again. I hope you enjoyed the last episode where I got interviewed, which was weird. And now I'm back to interviewing people. I like this side of the conversation so much more. Today, who do I have today? I have a dear friend who just keeps surprising me at every new revelation of the things that they share about themselves, the things that they share from their craft, the things that they share about the work that they do in this world and community. I have known them since 2015, I guess. And I am just so glad that we keep continuing to grow a deeper and deeper bond. So I think you're going to enjoy this conversation. I think it's going to be deep. I think it's going to be silly, or I don't know. We'll find out. We're going to get into it. Hey, friend, tell folks your name.
Hello, my name is Taneeka Wilder.
And what are your pronouns, Taneeka?
My pronouns are she and her.
Awesome. So tell folks a little bit about yourself. This is like where you tell people your bio, some version of it.
Whew. Well, I'm born and raised in the Bronx. I like to call myself a multifaceted creative that strives to create her own brand of humanity in this world. I'm a poet, a writer, an author, and an all-around eclectic blend of sunshine.
If that is not a fact, I don't know what is. And I gotta say it because because I gotta do it. I can't not do it. So what communities do you represent?
First and foremost, I represent my Black and Brown community. I represent my communities that foster love. I represent my communities that foster building humanity, building a new space of thinking. I represent the community that I serve, which are my children and my youth. And I represent communities of families that not only my family, but my extended family, my neighbors, and everyone just coming together to just create something beautiful for this planet.
Awesome. And you're also part of some other communities too. You're part of some movement communities, are you not?
I am. My dance community is very much a part of my heart. Dancing is not a hobby for me, it is a lifestyle. And of course, there is my poetry community.
Yes, because we're fellow poets, and I love watching you dance and seeing you do all types of different dance. So that's also really cool. I couldn't let you not say that. I was like, she did not say she's part of the dance community. We're gonna have to fix that. Is there, I'm even gonna dig a little bit deeper. Is there a specific type of dance that you like to be part of, or are you just any type of dances?
Well, I dance Lindy Hop the most, but I'm definitely into all types of dance, African dance, salsa, bachata, merengue, and of course, Bollywood, Hindi.
I did watch you at the Holly Festival.
Holly, yes.
I was like, you were doing more than my man was. I was like, I don't know if he was ready for you. I was like, and he looks South Asian. I was like, I don't know if he was ready to be dancing with you because you knew what you were doing, and he didn't he knew what he was doing.
And I kid you not, for the rest of that afternoon, he looked for me. He was like, come dance with me, You're good. He would not leave me alone.
That's what happens when you show people what you can do. So then, Taneeka, what community are you specifically talking about today?
Today, I'm going to be talking about my children and my youth. I work for a foster care agency in the Bronx. I've been in the field for over 10 years, not in foster care in particular, but in the behavioral health services component.
Awesome. So how did you get into that?
Wow. So I entered the field October 5th, 2010. Oh gosh. And I was previously working for City College. So I majored in psychology, did my bachelor's and my master's in psychology, and I was given word that this agency was hiring. So that was my entryway into the field. It was a shock for me because working for the college is a completely different environment. So here I am working in the field I actually went to school for. And I had so much to learn. And it was eye-opening for me.
I was like, from the expression on your face, I'm taking it that was not so easy of a learning curve to some extent.
No, it was not. No,
okay.
Not, but I quickly understood that this was my divine assignment and that I needed.
That's awesome. This is your divine assignment. Wow. So since you said it was your divine assignment, tell me something beautiful about either the work you do or why you feel it's your divine assignment.
So I've encountered so many children, so many youth that have reminded me of my own childhood. And I remember making a promise to myself when I was a little girl that I was always going to give back to my community, that I would never leave. I would never leave my community underfed, metaphorically speaking. So, I mean, I grew up in the Southeast Bronx and we didn't have a lot. And in me traveling to other communities and seeing what they had and all the resources that were poured into their programs. And when I actually looked at the statistics of how our children are placed under certain categories, in New York City, a good majority of our children are under SED, which stands for seriously emotionally disturbed. Versus if you go to New York State, it's medically fragile or there are developmental disabilities. But for our children are emotionally disturbed. I had an issue with that. So when I came in, I took a look at the language that we had to actually talk to the parents about. And I said, there's no way I'm going to sit down with the parent and tell them that their child is emotionally disturbed. I'm not doing it for a paycheck, and I'm definitely not going to be doing it to my people, my community. We've been through so much. So one of the first things I did was just change the narrative. And one of my first clients was a young lady. And in her introducing herself to me, she said, "Hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm a foster child." And I said to her, "No, you just so happen to be in foster care, but you're a child. And it's nice to meet you. And being a child is your birthright. So this is my responsibility to you. Because I'm not coming in here like anybody else. I want to restore some humanity in your life, some sunshine that was taken away from you."
That's it's so thank you for that. Thank you for that. And it's so amazing and important to think about the words we're using. And I'm so glad that in this moment in time, we are thinking about that. We are sensitive to that. We're no longer, or we should no longer be saying slaves, we're saying enslaved.
Yes.
Because it's people who had something done to them, not that they were just property, and changing just that you're a foster child to you're a child, point blank period. You're a child in a situation, but you are a child. Being reminded always that you get to be a child for a moment. That is important, and the foster part of it is not your responsibility. It's someone else's responsibility to worry about and deal with. That's huge. That was huge. And Wow. Wow. That's girl. And to think you were doing this before we started changing all of our language now,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I work in healthcare, and we were writing a thing for our staff, and we were saying those that are and the uninsured. And I was like, are we saying the uninsured? Are we saying those that are uninsured? Because that's still a different wording. And
yes,
they were like, no, but we don't think it's that bad. And I was like, I think it's falling into that same place. Like the uninsured, they are only uninsured for a moment. They may not always be uninsured. Why are we labeling them that way? So it is something to like think about as we talk about people. And I mean, some people don't mind the label, some people don't, and so labels are very funny and difficult anyway, period. But like we're stigmatizing people in ways that we're not even realizing.
that's right.
That's wow. Whew.
Right.
Wow. So have you seen yourself have like any victories in this as you're doing this work? I mean, in addition to
I have. I could share a little bit of a story with you.
please.
So I had a child for many years. He was actually one of my VIP kids. My role was called healthcare integrator.
Okay.
So my role was to take a combination of services to build on a child's social, emotional, intellectual, developmental, and educational growth. So we're looking at all aspects of the child. And he had a lot of struggles. He was in over 10 foster homes. And I'm talking about in 1 month.
Wow.
He was on more than 4 different psychotropic medications. And his mother was on the verge of losing her parental rights. So the turnaround was that after we had a team meeting, we had several team meetings because my program is a wraparound program. We work with the foster care program as a support for the child or the youth. But something happened at one of those meetings. And I would have my one-on-one conversations with mom, and I would try to encourage her. And I would explain to her, listen, what happened in the past happened in the past. But now your goal is to work on getting your children back, getting your child back. She was on the verge of giving up.
Mm-hmm.
Miraculously, the termination of parental rights turned around and she
Mm.
was able to be granted a final discharge. And her child was returned back home.
Wonderful.
And she called me and she started crying. And a few months later, I received another phone call. And she said, Miss Wilder, she said, your number is the only number I kept in my phone. She said, I deleted everybody else. But your number is the only number I kept in my phone. She said, because I want to thank you for all the help you've given my son and I throughout these years.
Mm.
But most importantly, you always treated me as if I was a somebody. She said, I didn't have a degree. I never had a degree. But so many people looked down on me because I didn't have what they had. So many workers in the field looked down on her because she didn't have the skills that they had. She said, but you always treated me as if I was a somebody. And that's the word I'm using. But, and then she started crying again.
Mm.
And I really, really appreciated that. I said, listen, it's not a job for me to treat you with respect. That's just who I am. And I was happy that she was able to get her child back, but I was even happier that she had, or that rather she felt empowered,
Mm-hmm.
To call and to say the words that she said. And that it really, really, really touched me because I don't, in this field, there aren't a lot of happy moments.
Mm-hmm.
So you hold on to every little bit of happiness that comes your way. And to me, it was confirmed that yes, what you're doing is working. You know, you being able to reach people and reach them sincerely, not because this is a job for you, but because you really care and they see that and they feel that and people remember that. No matter how long they've been away, they always come back and they'll never forget you. So that meant a lot to me.
That's beautiful. That is so that is beautiful. And thank you for the work you're doing. So you just said that there's not a lot of wins necessarily. Now, that's maybe my wording of your wording, but is that why then the other communities you're part of are so important to you? Like, do they help you keep grounded, or do they keep you going or balanced given the difficulty of the work you're doing?
Well, yes, but also it's a part of my way to actually bring the healing arts
Mm,
to our young people, because I feel that just talk therapy alone doesn't work for everyone,
mm,
especially when you're working with young people. They need different outlets. They need different outlets to expend all of that energy. They need to see that there is more to life than playing basketball or social media, um, and just being active again, because so many children are on their phones and they're like this.
mm-hmm.
And it kills me that they're like this. So I dance, I write poetry, not only for my own healing, but I have found with these mediums that because they've helped me heal so much,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps they could also be a source of healing for the communities I serve as well.
Awesome. Awesome. That's so do you like suggest them to like the kids, or like can you just talk a little more about that, or
Yeah, so so many things have changed since the pandemic.
mm-hmm,
So we don't have a lot of on-site activities the way we used to.
mm-hmm,
Before the pandemic, there were there was poetry, there was
mm,
we didn't get as far as dancing yet, but I did speak with my swing dance instructor.
nice.
So maybe in the future. It's just very, very hard to coordinate
Yeah.
time because there are so many different factors involved and things have changed so much. But quite a few years ago, myself and one of my colleagues, we came together to create like an arts. It was it was a day of art. He's an artist and he's a painter. So we did something for the children where it was on a Saturday on a weekend where the children would come in and I would help them paint and draw, and it was just a way for them to actually tap into another source of healing for them.
Mm, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm all into arts therapy and expression, so
Yes.
that's that's awesome. That's great stuff. So can you share something frustrating about your community? Without getting too
Yeah.
frustrating yourself,
Okay.
or something you like to see change, you know?
Yeah. Okay. So one thing I definitely love to see change is the idea that one person could save a battalion.
Mm,
Just to simplify, I'm no longer a healthcare integrator, but for a lot of my colleagues, they have a caseload size of like 30 to 40 kids. And you're only one person, you can only do but so much. It's not just the home visits or the school visits or the hospital visits. You also have to do progress notes. And there are multiple deadlines because our program is also overseen by the Department of Health.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to follow everything that DOH tells us to do. But there's not enough manpower. And a lot of the children that come to us, they have very, very high needs. We're talking about children who have a history of suicidal ideation, children who have been abused sexually, physically, emotionally, children who have severe medical issues. I think it would be better if the caseload size was reduced
Mm-hmm.
so that quality support could be afforded to each family to prevent burnout. Because the turnover rate, it ebbs and flows. But I think that if more people in the field were heard, as opposed to, well, that's just your job, then there'll be more, what is the word that I'm looking for? There'll be things will definitely be more manageable, less stressful. Because there's a lot of vicarious trauma that's happening. And the good thing is that there are some resources that have been put into place. But if the structure and the policy has not changed, because it's not just the agency putting things into place. If the larger structure doesn't change, then nothing's going to change. And that's actually a conversation we had recently in regard to our anti-Black racism committee. Mm-hmm. And ensuring that just practices are being put into place. Right now, we're starting at the local level, which is pretty much the agency level. But what I recommended was that, okay, what about having these conversations with the policymakers, with the funders? Because then massive change will come about and things will really start moving. And people will actually start feeling better about the quality of life. You shouldn't have to sacrifice your quality of life, sacrifice your health for your job or career. I think that's murderous.
Yeah, it's funny as you say this. I was speaking to somebody who works as a social worker, and I don't know if it was ACS proper or a different agency tied to the same, like they were serving children. I don't know exactly where they were in that. And they were saying the reason why they left that field was because they had watched everyone who retired died with like right behind that. Like everyone was like, they would retire and then they would never be able to enjoy their retirement because the field was essentially killing them.
Yes.
And that's not a way to live, yes. That's not. And she was like, yeah, I'm not gonna that's not how I want to go out, So she left early to avoid that being her future. But it is a very strenuous, especially like you said, that I don't know what you called it, the trauma that y'all can take on. The vicarious trauma based upon the things that y'all are seeing and witnessing from family and watching kids. And yeah, I'm glad you're addressing some of it. I know that like some things are sensitive and you can't go into a lot of details, but can you say a little bit more about the anti Black work that you're trying to do, or or how that could look, if there's a way to talk about that a little bit.
Yes, so I'm not a part of the committee. They wanted me to be a part of the committee, but I have so much on my plate at work.
Yeah.
I said I can't take on another task right now. But last month for Black History Month, I shared a poem with all of my staff and they loved it so much that a few people that listened to the poem joined the Anti-Black Racism Committee. And it created, I believe it was around the incidents that happened with Eric Garner. And it was formed to change some of the policies within the agency. For instance, we need more Black therapists. If we're serving a population of Black and Brown children, we need therapists that are Black and Latino. We hardly have any therapists that are Black and Latino. And it causes friction and a lot of mistrust between the parents and the therapist, because they're like, oh, well, how is this person going to understand my child? Or all they want to do is drug my child up with medication. So that level of sensitivity, that level of familiarity, when someone sees that you look like them, it's almost like a sigh of relief, because there aren't a lot of mental health professionals, at least at my agencies, that are of color needed to build that bridge and to foster wellness.
It's interesting because I wish I could remember this properly. On Instagram, and I guess on all the other platforms, there's a doctor. I think you and I have spoken about this offline, but there's a Dr. Markel. I'm mixing her names all up. Dr. Raquel Martin.
Yes.
And she actually talked about that because her focus is the African diaspora and patients of the African diaspora. And she talked about it at some point in the ways in which we view, or not we, but like therapists will view a situation in a home. And a therapist who may not be, or a therapist or social worker who may not be acquainted with like what it means to be Black may analyze the situation with the wrong lens or context, not understanding the other parts that make that situation what it is. Like they may think like her working the second shift may be a problem, but understanding why that's tied that way, or some systemic things that may be making the situation what it is, that is not as like they're a bad parent, but it's them being the best parent they can be, or some of these other dynamics. I'm totally misquoting that that episode or that video that she did, that reel she did, but it was when she talked about it. And she talked about the difference in how they would diagnose a patient, a youth, or a dynamic in a family, or even like this, or the trauma. One of the ones she was talking about was the legacy of trauma that's passed on. And part of that is just like, you know, and it was something that really resonated for me as we just think about it, the things that we pass on from parent to child about don't be too big, and don't be too loud, or don't be too, and it's not even that it's the child's fault or anything, but it's just because it is learned from back in slavery, or like the watch out for how you behave. And so the parent may not be ready to let the child go do things that the child may need to do, but the parent themselves may not have addressed their own trauma tied to racism or letting their child go out. And so the white therapist would be like, you need to let the child go be free, not thinking about police interactions with them and not being sensitive to those type of things. So it's just very interesting. You have to have a cultural competency, and then it's also you waste time in therapy if the patient has to or the family has to explain to you like all the things, the backstory that you don't get. So now we got to teach you the stuff so that you can be able to serve us, and that's tiring. Like I remember my Indian therapist, my first therapist, she was wonderful. I loved her. But I would say something like, oh, my bad. She goes, no, not your bad. you're not bad. And she didn't understand I was just speaking
Right,
slang, you know?
right,
But every
right.
time I have to explain to her, nah, I'm not saying I'm bad. I'm just saying my bad. Cause it's like a slang statement, like my
Right.
mistake. But she didn't understand that. So I got to explain that every single time too, which is kind of hilarious.
Yes.
So yeah, it's interesting that you have to have some level of cultural competency in order to serve a community. Otherwise, you're not going to serve them properly or in a healthy way. So thank you for speaking about that. So I don't know if I always run into this question. I love this question, but I also find it's not really great for every interview or every discussion. But is there a fun fact or a unique fact about your community you can share?
A fun or unique fact. Yes, actually.
Okay,
Oh, I can honestly say that my colleagues are very, very funny.
awesome.
We use humor daily. So now that we're actually back into the office, so we're all on a hybrid schedule, but being back in the office a few days within the week, there are lots of jokes.
Mm.
Honestly, say that the humor is what really, 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 I know it keeps me going, but it just adds a layer of sunshine in our jobs.
Mm.
Just recounting what happened at a home visit and some of the interesting things we have seen would invite laughter to really, really lighten the load.
Mm.
And sometimes we do have events that are put together by one of the committees where we'll go to an amusement park or we'll have picnics or they'll have an event to celebrate the team, some of the teams in the company. So they have all this food and they'll be dancing and I'll come home learning a new line dance. I'm like, yes. So we've actually done a lot of fun things together. And that's one of the things I love about where I work. They
Mm.
do try to bring people together, under the circumstances. The pandemic made things a little bit hard, actually a lot hard, but slowly we're trying to come together the way we used to bring us back where we were before. It won't be the same, of course, but just to have those moments of togetherness, that bonding and that connection, it just means a lot.
That's awesome. So you would say maybe that you're fortunate to work in a place where you get to bring all of yourself together, because you just said you got to poet, you got to bring a poem to your organization, and you get to line dance. Like, is that
Only during special events.
but you don't have to hide those things about yourself either though, right? So
No,
that's beautiful. That, like, not a lot of jobs is that the case. So I think that's
no.
pretty awesome.
Oh, and I forgot. One thing for me, well, I don't drink, but one thing
Mhm.
is that at these special events, sometimes there's alcohol and you get a chance to see other people out of their element. That's
Yeah.
always fun to watch.
Just don't take notes on them, they don't need to be, no.
So as when you see someone who's usually like uptight and like they're just serious and just all business, but then in another mode they're like, hi Taneeka, and it's refreshing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great that your company does that stuff, because y'all are dealing with some heavy stuff.
Yes.
So being able to bond and share and just release some of that, it's got to help y'all a lot. It's got to help y'all a lot. And yeah, the laughing, I'm always a proponent for laughing, because it is a way to let go of some of that trauma that's happening. that gets into your body or into your system of what you saw. And sometimes some of that stuff has to be crazy making, you know.
Yes.
Some of that has to be crazy making. And the only way you can deal with it is like, did you see
Did
it?
she
Okay.
just come? Did she just come to the door with nothing on? Like,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And only people who do the work will get it, right? Like, so I get it. I appreciate that. So you told us about work and the work that you're doing in the community and the impacts you've had on people. And the fun fact about that community. Is there a fun fact about yourself you can share?
fun fact about myself.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom and I had a conversation recently, and she said to me, "You're such a free spirit." And she's right. I work hard, but I'm a big kid. I like to have fun. Even the most mundane things, I like to turn into a source of creativity. And just recently, my mom and I, this was yesterday, she allowed my inner child to roam free. So I said to her, "Mom, I saw a picture on the internet. There was this elderly couple inside a washing machine." And I looked at her washing machine and I said, "Mom, do you think I can fit inside your washing machine?" And she said, "I don't know." She's but long story short, she dared me. And you never dare me to do anything. So I did. And I had my niece take a picture of me. So I'm out of the washing machine like this.
Wow. I'm gonna need to see this picture.
I'm gonna send it to you.
I'm gonna need to see this picture. I love it. And I can still see you doing this because if you're not following Taneeka on social media, you will, if you have to, but you will be bombarded with, and not in a bad way, with all sorts of poems, videos of her dancing, but not just her dancing, but like dancing in the middle of the Bronx just because, or in some random trees, like not dancing in the trees, but like among some random trees in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, where did she go to now? She's like, she'll be one place, she'll be in the middle of like the city one moment, in the middle of trees the next moment, and then standing on the beach. I'm like, where is she? Like, it's almost like, where in the world is Taneeka? And she's not far. She didn't go far away, but yet she's like in a place that's far away that I didn't know existed nearby. So like Taneeka's always somewhere. She's always out there. And then she learned how to like, what was that? Oh wait, you're part of a different community too, where you were learning how to eat the natural foods that you found in the.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that was so much fun. That was 2 years ago. I had my first foraging trip in Central Park. And I went home with this big reishi mushroom. I was told to cook it for 3 hours, which I did. But then, well, that was an interesting experiment. But the ginkgo nuts, I absolutely loved.
Okay.
So it was great. I learned a lot about different trees and plants, and I would definitely do it again, but no more mushrooms.
I'm very I'm gonna wait until this conversation is offline and find out more about these mushrooms. So yeah, like Taneeka's always into something. And I think that's really cool. Like you'll find, I think, I saw this thing recently and, I haven't done a podcast in a couple of months. And so if you watched the other podcast I was doing before with Tony, and I don't know if we're coming back with that one yet, but that was word to word. He's busy, I'm busy. We haven't made dates for returning it, but like I would say that like I've been having a hard time or whatever, and so I've been having a hard time. I've been having a hard time. Like if I was having a hard time during that last podcast, hard time went on steroids, and I've been having a hard time. But I watched a video the other day, and he was like, "We only live once."
That's right.
So why are we not doing it up as big as possible?
That's right.
And that almost motivated me. Like, I mean, it's hard to when you got a lot of things on your plate,
Yeah.
but like you are somebody that motivates, just like the amount of things and places and experiences you have. And I mean, sometimes resting is also doing it up, because if we do it too much, we also don't rest, right?
Right.
But like you are always somewhere. And I'm just like, man, what is like I almost like to live vicariously through you. I don't want the vicarious trauma, but I want the vicarious like middle of the beach somewhere. Like I'm like, where is she now? Like I love it. I love watching you dancing. I wish my knees were up for it, but like, I still do want to actually do like the Lindy dancing at some point, because I like dancing, and I want to learn how to couple dance. So like, but she has the videos of all of that too. Like you guys got to watch her socials, because Taneeka's always, it's like I wasn't joking. Where in the world is Taneeka? Forget Carmen Sandiego. Carmen Sandiego into no good. Taneeka's up to good. Go watch where she's landing next. So yeah, like oh my goodness. I like you in a dryer. It was a washer. It was a washer,
It's a
right?
washing machine.
Okay, yeah. Like I'm not surprised by this. I'm not. I am surprised by this, but I'm not surprised by this too, because you will find something to get into,
And
literally.
also Holly. I
Yes.
love Holly. I mean, not everyone loves to be covered in colored dust. And even when I was there, I came with my own colors too. So just add a little bit more to the palette. And there was this one woman, I said, "Happy Holly, do you want?" She was like, I was like, okay. And then just dancing with and walking down the street with, and people looking at you, you're all
You were
colorful.
definitely one of the most colorful people in those photos. I was like, did she just like pour it on herself?
With some help as well.
I'm certain. I'm certain. Like I think that's fun, but then every time I see those pictures, I'm like, I will never get out of my locks, and I will have like the worst asthma attack in the middle of all that. It's like that looks like fun, but I can see myself dying in the process. But I love the energy you have. Like if you guys are ever having a bad day, go look at Taneeka's page, because by 3 videos in, you're gonna have a good day, because she's gonna have something silly going on there. And I think that's amazing. Um, so yeah, like I almost like you sort of answered everything. Is there anything else you want us to know about you or want to talk about before we like get to the last few questions?
For me, I love people. I love people, and I just want us to understand that peace is definitely where we are. And so each and every day, especially because I'm very, very mindful of my health, I strive to just create a healthy lifestyle outside of me as well. So the things that I do is not for naught, because I do it to thrive, and I want other people around me to thrive.
Mm.
Because of the world we live in, there's just so much going on. There's just so much injustice. So my purpose, I feel that my purpose is just to turn it all around and to just do it differently. If love is pain. Why is love pain? Who said that love is pain? Why can't love be healing?
Mm.
Why do you have to subscribe to a certain narrative that because you are of this age, you have to have this in place, or because you're a woman and it's Women's History Month and you have a uterus, or maybe you don't have a uterus, you're supposed to have children, you're supposed to wear your hair a certain way. All of these shoulds and all of these things that we're supposed to do, I question. And for some people, then that might not be the right way to go, but I've always been this way. Also helps me to understand what my journey is and how other people should think about what their journey is as well, apart from what everyone else is doing. And to respect each other's differences, because that's important. We don't all live in a world where everyone thinks the same, acts the same way, dresses the same way. But when we learn to respect our differences and we learn to actually grow in loving ourselves in a deeper way, all of that love that we have for ourselves will extend outward and multiply.
That is beautiful. And knowing you for all these years, that is so you. Like, I think you summed up you. I don't think I could say anything else to say who you are. You know, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about our upcoming trip in just under 2 months. And how we got to that point of having this trip, right? Like, so Taneeka and I will be traveling to Dubai to see essentially our little sister get married. And, and that happens because we've never met this person in person, this has been a bond that came out of social media, out of connections, out of openness, out of we're there for you, out of a space of connection that came from wires and signals and all that other stuff, but really heart and availability and listening and sharing. And, I can't wait to be there and to celebrate and to spend time with the both of you. But when I think about just who the two of you are and who I am, I'm already tired as I think about the trip.
The overwhelm is real.
Between time zones, and I'm a full introvert. I'm so tired already. I'm like, I think Taneeka's gonna make me see all of Dubai in 2 days, and I don't know how I feel about this.
Itinerary, I'll send it to you.
Oh gosh, see, I told y'all, I'm scared. I'm scared. But at the same time, I think like if I don't go with Taneeka, I'm not gonna get to enjoy it because I'm gonna shut down and Taneeka's gonna be like gonna see everything and be like, man, I wish I saw stuff, because Taneeka's so present. And I think that's the thing with her. She makes you be present. Taneeka is always present. And whether it's good stuff going on in her life, and we're not gonna front, Taneeka has some stuff going on in her life that's not always good either. We've been through some hard things and we're going through some hard things for me, for her, whenever. But like she's always present. And I think that's the beautiful thing. She challenges us to always be present with whatever's going on and to find ways to navigate those things that are happening in the moment. So I just think you're such a beautiful person and a beautiful soul. And thank you for, again, the work you're doing in the community that you're serving and everyone you interact with. Like it was the poetry community that brought us together from the very beginning, but it's the poetry community that brought, our little sister to us too, and all of that. So Yeah. So that all said, as we near closer to the end of this interview and conversation, but never near the end of this friendship, do you have a poem that you want to share with us? Because you are a poet. So I want to give you a chance to share with the world, at least that part of it. I'm not going to ask you to dance on your couch. So I'm at least going to ask you to share a poem with us.
Wow. Okay. I actually do have a poem.
Awesome. Well, the stage is yours.
Okay. Well, since we are talking about a particular community, I wanted to read a poem from my book, On the Precipice of Love Illuminated. The first poem in the book is really special to me. It's called Epiphany, because this poem I wrote after a hospital visit for one of my youth many years ago. And the poem is dedicated to him. And it goes like this. Blood coursing black and blue through my veins, crisscrosses my capillaries. It hugs the solid corners of my wildly pumping heart, alerting me to the fact that anger is trying to move in and become my best friend. It wants me to form an alliance and give in to the pain, frustration, and anguish that seeks to threaten the very core of my sanctity, livelihood, and vitality. I refuse to die young from physical and mental exhaustion that greets me in the morning before the sun rises to its peak and keeps me up at night before I go to sleep. I refuse to swallow my pride to follow unethical protocol to make somebody else's pockets rich while disguising my own values and morals of a higher niche. I have been duped, deceived, bamboozled, and tricked to believe I could actually make a difference in the lives of children who deserve to see brighter hopes and dreams by adults who would genuinely care for them and their most pertinent needs. But who really cares among a mass scale of millions where most people are trying to survive 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week, amid a paycheck so small it's gone in 1 week? I refuse to worship the gods of corporations and its smaller cousins who shall remain nameless, because at the end of the day, they too are trying to fetch a carrot dangling from a tiny stick that they will never catch in a forest deep and dense. I will bow down to my highest truth. It will not defer to man-made rhetoric dressed up in fanciful theories of fluff, designed to pacify audiences who remain blinded by society's roots. How much would you sacrifice to the false gods and goddesses posing as saviors, knights, kings, and queens? How much have you sacrificed to piece together broken shards of your self-esteem? The sky is limitless, and my life is a serious game, one that I'm not willing to gamble for the price of accepting pain. And that piece is dedicated to my children and a commitment to myself to never leave them.
Wow. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That is a very powerful piece. And thank you for just, again, I've said it a few times in this, but thank you so much for sharing, for the work you're doing. Like, it is not lost on, and we've had other private conversations about just the work you're doing and how important it is and how it's not easy. It is not easy. And so I thank you for your commitment to doing this and just being who you are, because you're an awesome person. And so thank you for also being on the show. So how do we support your community? Like, what can we do to try to make things better for your community, or how do we support them?
What are the ways in which my community, or rather this particular community, could be supported is understanding that the words we tell our children, our behavior, but especially how we talk to our children, we have to start there.
Mm.
Even if we didn't receive the certain type of nurturing we needed, we can learn. Sometimes it's just trial and error. But our children need that love. They need somebody to listen to them. I would love to see more of that. You know, it's not about, okay, donate here, give a resource here, but on a more practical sense, if you have children in your household, or if you see a child that you know of, even if you don't know the child and they're in need, or if you know of an educator in a school, be mindful of how you talk to the children. Give them an encouraging word. Let them know that they matter. Show them a different way. Show them what's not being shown on TV, in social media. Let them know that they're beautiful inside and out, so that they don't have to come through systems with limitations that we have to work so hard to reverse. So pretty much that is my hope,
Mm-hmm.
that we think a little bit more deeply and a little bit more critically and a bit more mindfully about how we treat other people, how we treat our children whom we say we love so much and whom we say is the next generation. Because if we really feel they're the next generation, then let's generate some more love for them, some
Mm.
more care. And that has to start with us.
You know, as you're saying this, I was thinking about my friend who's a teacher. She, one of my degrees is in education. So we met at our program and she started her own school up in Connecticut. And she was talking the other day about how she had driven by these kids who she recognized and asked them if they were okay as they were on their way to school. And they said they were fine. And so she drove past them. And then she was like, she doubled back and talked to them, picked them up and actually got them in her car. And they knew her, like they weren't stranger kids, so it was okay for her to sweep these kids up. And she realized that they were underdressed. And it wasn't and she was like, this is not about the parents. This has nothing to do with the parents. It was the system that she blamed.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it was the system's blame because they were like, oh, it's inclement weather, but send your kids to school anyway. Without giving like parents a way to know how they were going to be picked up or whatever. Like it was like the kids, it was about where the kids were being dropped off, or like it was about their transportation or their lack thereof that left them out on the street on a snowy day or on a really cold day without a way to get home properly. And that's what she was chastising. It wasn't the kids, it wasn't the parents' fault. It was the weather had changed and the school was like, well, you still have to be in the school, but we're not going to necessarily get you home properly. And that's what she was complaining about. And luckily she just happened, like she's an educator, she's got her own kids, she's got this whole school that she started. So she had extra supplies in her car. So she handed them gloves and hats and stuff to get them covered and dropped them off where they needed to be. But just the whole idea, like if she didn't invest in these kids that are not hers, but they're neighborhood kids, like we stopped community parenting out of fear of people being upset, I mean, because community parenting didn't have to just be beating the child, right? But it was looking out for the child.
That's
It was
right.
looking out for they're not home yet. They're walking on the way, making sure everyone knew that this child was on their way home and keeping an eye out, making sure they weren't getting in trouble. And we stopped doing that. But part of that is not just oh, you got in trouble, so everyone's gonna beat you on your way home. That was part of it back in the day, but it's everyone knew who you were. It's that auntie network that, as much as it's terrible in some ways, it works in other ways, right? Because everyone's your auntie, then you're not gonna mess up when you see an auntie around,
Exactly.
and but it's the love. It's not the chastising that needs to be there. It's the love. It's the you're not a foster child. It's a child. You're a child in foster care, but you're a child. I think it's back to what you said in the beginning. It's that language around children and letting them be kids. They being an adult sucks. Being an adult sucks on so many levels. Let's not rush them to be here. Let's let them be kids for a little while longer. Let's let them enjoy that. Let's not rush it. And let's not give them burdens and responsibilities that's not theirs to carry. And let's let them enjoy the words of being a kid. You know, sometimes you can't avoid it, but there's other ways that we can just let them enjoy childhood and how we label them and what we say. So yeah, thank you for that, Taneeka.
You're welcome. And you know what, Dara? I just wanted to just say something, just to add on to your
Yeah,
thought.
please.
I had this conversation recently with a friend of mine. But if you look into the Bible and remember the passage where it talks about the kingdom of God and how to enter the kingdom of God, you have to become like a little child.
Mm-hmm.
I've always wanted to understand the reasoning behind why that's not reinforced. And then adulthood is reinforced more so over just allowing that inner child to come out and to play, and thinking how that could completely transform your version of adulthood. Yes, you can still have your responsibilities and do everything you're supposed to do, but to allow that freedom to just be and to flow and to just give back to that inner child kingdom, how powerful is that?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that not biblical?
It would be so much easier and fun and less crazy, like less difficult. One of my favorite memories of me and my mom, we were in a mall in Quest County. And I don't know why, but we were walking through the mall. We were just like running and skipping, running and skipping, running and skipping. And I'm like, it was just a silly moment, but it was like, it's such a, and then people started coming to the mall. We were like, oh, okay, let's stop. Like we shouldn't have had to stop. But it was like that good moment. Like my favorite, I mean, my last pictures of my sister before she passed and before she got really sick was her making silly faces at me. And I was like, I'm just trying to take a serious face of you. She's like, you don't always have to be serious.
That's
This
right.
her as a 34-year-old, as a lawyer who's already argued a case in front of the Supreme Court and has 2 kids and doing all of this. And she's like, you don't always have to be serious. And it's like,
Yes.
it's true.
That's beautiful. So beautiful. She's
It's
right.
true. Yeah, we don't always have to be serious. And sometimes it's the seriousness that's going to give us the heart attack.
Right. That's right.
And if we're always serious, then the kids never get to be silly. We never get to be full of wonder. Like there's so many things out there that still, like I like to look at, like, and I do, I want to be like you when I grow up, even if I may be a year older. But I want to be like you when I grow up, because I do stand outside and I listen to the birds, and I look at the trees, and I love taking pictures of plants, and it's primarily because I'm always like, guys showing off right now, guys just showing off like this. And so like that's my moment of like being a big kid, because I can't make that make sense to me, but like guys just showing off. So like I want to take pictures of it, and I don't even post half the pictures of it. I just want to take pictures of it because I'm like, it's so gorgeous, like,
Yes.
oh my gosh. Then that's me being present in the moment.
Yes.
And just like, oh my gosh, you see how beautiful this? Let me stop whatever I'm doing and take a picture of this gorgeous flower right now. And I saw a hawk the other day, and I was like, my goodness, why is there a hawk flying over my house? That's crazy,
Wow.
But like, and I couldn't get a picture of it because it flew too fast. And that's only because I heard its wings flapping that I even noticed it was there. And I saw the blue jay, I saw the other pigeons, and then there was a hawk above that. And I was like, oh, what is that? But like having that wander and just like going on. So I think I think you're right. And I think if we can do that for ourselves, then the kids will be able to do it. But we always have to be able to say, like, enjoy being a child, and not like, go be a kid, but just like they learn from watching us, and they learn from what we say. And if we're not saying, if we're not speaking life into being a child, then they can never be that either.
That's right.
So yeah. So how do we support you, Taneeka?
Well, if anyone would like to follow me, you could follow me on Instagram at T Brown Boogie Down, representing the Bronx.
Bitch.
You could support this platform, this beautiful platform. And I thank you so much, Dara, for inviting me to speak today.
Thank you for being here. It has been amazing, as always. It's always amazing talking to you. So yeah, and also go get her book, On the Precipice of Love. Is it on? Yeah.
Of Love Illuminated.
Of Love and Illuminated. I have it. I was like, I don't trust myself to say it, but yeah. Go get the book. Go get the book. Go get the book. It is actually a really great read. It's a fast read, but it's a great read. So read it. Spend time with those words, because there's definitely some poems in there that'll get you thinking, especially that first one we just heard. So thank you, Taneeka, for being awesome and joining us today. And thank you, everyone, for listening to On Behalf of. Check out some more episodes. If you want to support us, you know there's a subscription button, and you can not only just subscribe to listen, but you can subscribe by donating on a monthly basis as well. So thank you again, and we will speak to you on the next episode.